Hi fasters, welcome to Old Fat and Fasting. Today's video is going to be the first in a series on how do I start fasting. And today's topic, we're going to help you decide whether or not talking to your doctor is worth it. We want to start out by saying if you have diabetes, if you are on any prescription drug medication, you have gout or high uric acid, heart, liver, or kidney disease, or any other serious medical conditions, you absolutely have got to talk to your doctor before you start fasting.
And before we get into it, we also want to say we are not doctors. So anything that we say on here is not meant to diagnose or give any kind of medical advice, right? It's just what we've learned through educating ourselves, basically.
No matter how many times I've watched ER from start to finish.
That's right. Or Grey's Anatomy. Yes.
Or House. Yeah.
Right. If you don't fall into any of the categories that Lori mentioned, it's really up to you whether or not you want to talk to your doctor about fasting. A lot of what we're going to say in this video, we learned from the book, Life in the Fasting Lane. Is that right? I never can remember if it's Life in the Fasting Lane or Living in the Fasting Lane. Okay. Life in the Fasting Lane. A great book that's packed with practical tips for fasting.
This is
highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I liked it better than the Obesity Code. Same people that are still Jason Fung, but I liked it better than the Obesity Code.
Yeah, Lori and I were talking about this yesterday, and I think I've probably mentioned in a previous video that I recommend Obesity Code as a good starting point, and it is an excellent book. I highly recommend it. The difference between the two books is the Obesity Code is kind of the science, like how it works, why it works, insulin resistance, all that kind of stuff. And Life in the Fasting Lane is more practical about how to ease into fasting, stuff like that. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today, we did get from that book, so we highly recommend it. We'll put a link below the video to it on Amazon in case you want to pick it up.
And you do want to pick it up.
Just trust us. You do want to pick it up. So if you don't fit into any of the categories that Lori mentioned, it's really up to you whether or not to talk to your doctor. So just a few words of advice if you do decide to talk to your doctor. One is to keep in mind that your doctor probably has had very little training in nutrition, at least from medical school. The person who wrote Life in the Fasting Lane and the Obesity Code, and who I consider as like the guru of fasting, is a doctor, Dr. Jason Fung. He's been a doctor for, I don't know, 20 something years. And in the book, Life in the Fasting Lane, he says that over 4 years of education that doctors get in medical school, maybe 10 or 20 hours of that is about nutrition. And it's not about practical kind of nutrition. It's about how does vitamin D get where it needs to go? And, you know,
he said they even studied scurvies.
You know, medical school, the impression I got from what he wrote is that medical school is more about diseases. It's about what medications work for different things. It's just tiny. I think he even says the most common questions that doctors get related to nutrition is, you know, what should my diet be? What should I eat or not eat to lose weight? And they don't really learn that in medical school. So you've got to consider the background that your doctor's coming from if you decide to talk to them about fasting. And one analogy that they use in the book also that I thought was really good was you wouldn't go to your plumber and ask him to take out your wisdom teeth because he has no training in how to take out wisdom teeth, right? So why would you go to your doctor to talk about fasting? He has no training in fasting unless, and Lori will talk about this in a minute, unless there are doctors out there who support fasting. And they do it because they have taken it upon themselves to learn about fasting. But for the most part, just be prepared that your doctor's probably not going to support you fasting.
Or may just not have a lot of knowledge about it because they didn't, I don't know, what do you do? Major, minor in nutrition or being a dietitian?
Right. And that's why he won't support it. I mean,
Yeah.
in defense of the doctors, they don't support it because they don't know anything about it, right?
Krista mentioned that Jason Fung said that one of the questions that doctors get the most is, how do I lose weight? And that is what I did in 2019. I went in for my annual exam and I asked my doctor, how do I know which diet is the right diet to follow? You hear different people, whether it's on TV or magazines or books or, just friends that you have. Well, count calories. Well, calories in, calories out, watch your carbs. And you just don't know who you're supposed to listen to. Who's right, who's wrong. And I don't know what to do. And it was that doctor, Eric Osborne, I love you, that told me about the obesity code. And I think I've even talked about that maybe in my intro video.
Yeah.
And he's the one that talked to me about fasting, and big fan of it. Fast forward 1 year to my next exam, and Dr. Osborne wasn't in the office, so I saw a different doctor. And I talked to her about fasting, and she was very anti-fasting. So two doctors, same office, two different opinions. So just know that every doctor is going to have their own opinion. So educate yourself and talk to your doctors, but mainly the decision is okay. It is 100% okay for you to have your own opinion. Just educate yourself, be knowledgeable and feel comfortable with what you're doing. And your doctor may be a bigger fan of it if you say, well, look, I am interested in fasting. I am interested in losing weight. Can I come in regularly and get blood work done and have you check my weight? And that may motivate them to educate themselves more about fasting. And, a lot of things in your blood work will change. And it's just a really healthy thing, not just for weight loss, but for overall health.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also important. I feel like any health decision that you make for yourself, I mean, unless it's heart disease or, something major, I feel like we all should educate ourselves and talk to our doctor, right? And so fasting is no different. So if you get some advice from your doctor, you educate yourself on the same thing, and then you figure out what you think is best for you. And sometimes it might line up with what your doctor says, and sometimes it won't. I know Lori and I both tend to try to heal ourselves naturally.
Yes.
Where the doctor might give you a pill, and we're like, I'd rather not take a pill if I don't have to. Let me try this instead.
Right.
And that's going against the advice of our doctor, but we'd rather try something natural instead first. So to me, fasting is similar to that. It's just like any other health situation. You kind of get your own education, talk to your doctor, and then figure out what you think is best for you.
Yeah, I used to have really bad joint pain in my knees, and doctors always wanted to put me on medication. And through reading about fasting and healing with nutrition, I cut out gluten and I started fasting, and my joints went away. And I'm not taking medication, which is what the doctors wanted me to do. Instead of figuring out what's causing it, they just wanted to put the Band-Aid on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we'll talk more in some future videos, probably several videos about, what we focus on in most of our videos is fasting for weight loss, but there are so many other reasons that fasting is good for you. It heals your body, it heals your gut. There's just tons of good reasons to fast. And I've had the same results as far as pain as Lori has with fasting. And that is because of another thing that happens when you're fasting, which is autophagy. We won't go into it right now, but basically I think autophagy literally means self-eating.
Self-eating.
Yeah.
It's the big boy. That's
right.
the fasting thing.
Right, which is, and autophagy is a process. Actually, I just learned this from watching a Jason Funk video the other day. It's a process that was discovered by a Nobel Prize winning scientist. I forget in which year, and he won the Nobel Prize for discovering autophagy, which is basically a process where your body cleans out all the bad stuff, kind of heals itself. So when you're fasting, one of the things that happens is it gets rid of inflammation, and inflammation is what's causing that joint pain. So we both have had that good side effect. So yeah, that's another example of, you know, I've had physical therapy, I've had drugs, I've had everything you could think of to try to get rid of the joint pain, but nothing has worked like fasting because it gets to the root of the problem. It doesn't just get rid of the pain for a little while, it fixes the problem.
Right.
So.
I'm in autophagy right now, and I wasn't being rude. I mean, I looked like I was being rude, but you hit autophagy at 24 hours. So we're not saying that you have to fast for 72 hours before you get the
Oh,
benefit. It's one day of
right.
not eating, and you've hit autophagy. And I'll put up a screen overlay on this that gives a little more description of it. But I'm in it now because I think I'm about to hit 40 hours or something.
Yeah, and one of the benefits of doing longer fast, it does start at 24 hours, but then it continues. So the longer you do fast, the more time your body is spending healing itself, basically.
Yeah.
So that's one of the benefits of learning to do longer fast. But yeah, it kicks in as soon as 24 hours.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Self-healing is good stuff, man.
Yep. Yeah. So before we wrap up, in the beginning, we told you some medical conditions, you know, where if you have these medical conditions, you absolutely must talk to your doctor first. There are certain groups of people who should not fast. This is straight from the doctor's mouth too, Dr. Fung. The people he recommends should not fast are if you're underweight, which is if you have a BMI of under 18.5, or if you have an eating disorder, it's not recommended. If you're pregnant, if you're breastfeeding, or if you're under the age of 18, he does not recommend you even considering fasting if you fall into one of those categories. We did create 2 documents. One of them has a list of the health conditions that if you have these health conditions, you should absolutely talk to your doctor first. And then we created another one that has that list of who should not fast, period. And they will be on the website. So I guess there will be a link. Well, I know there will be a link below this video to it on the website. And you can get those there if you want them. And I think that's it.
I think
Is that
that's
all we
all.
want to cover?
I think
Okay.
so.
And that'll wrap it up for today. Happy fasting.
Bye.